Okay, let's continue. Okay, problem. Okay, so first of all, compensatory damages. Once again, most of the breach of contract cases, what I want or what plaintiff want is financial compensation. So this is a typical reimbursement for the damages that the plaintiff party can seek out of this lawsuit. So monetary damages at fair market value, and then I introduce new concept, new legal notion, which is mitigation principle or principle of mitigation of the damages. So take reasonable effort to lessen the consequences of a breach. So if I broke your car, for example, you file a claim, and then you're going to identify the fair market value of the vehicle I broke, okay? Because you can see the same product, the same vehicle in different prices at the different market. So I don't necessarily have to pay more money than necessary if I don't have to. Because that's the mitigation principle. So number 2. So specific performance. We covered specific performance this part minutes ago. Only for unique goods or circumstances. Betty Bond 73 home number and include human resources and land. So this is a unique item, unique goods or product or services. Then breach of contract. If you breach of contract saying I don't want to sell it after the contract was over, then there's no other way to rework. Okay. And also human resources. We are not able to force the human beings to stay within the team. So we need to let them go because of their free will. We have a free will. I don't like this team. Okay. I want to play for XYG franchise. This is my dream team. If they offer me a job, okay, I gotta go. Okay. So for specific performances, then we have a couple of different different kind of compensation. 최진수, yeah.
For the specific performance, so you are saying that only for unique goods or circumstances that the contract could be like rewinded. Like if you make a mistake during the contract,
Yeah.
so you had a chance to make it right.
So yeah, so once again, think about what the plaintiff want. Okay, you try to make them happy or make them satisfied with what you can offer. If you don't want to sell your batted bond 73 home run ball, and then you can ask them, okay, I changed my mind, but I know I breached my contract, but what do you want? So if they keep asking, hey, this is the only one I want, and you gotta do it.
So then, in the normal contract, that is not unlimited. So you can't do those things in normal contracts.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So there's one item, and then you have to do whatever the plaintiff wants to do. So bottom line is the relief. What's the relief? What they want? What do they want? Okay. I mean, if I broke your car, then probably you can ask me, what do I do? Buy a same kind of car, which is a used car, or you want money, or some other financial compensation, right? So you can ask some other benefit to satisfy, what you want and what you need. But for unique items, this is what you want, and then you have to do it. Okay, number 3, liquidated damages. Liquidated damages. Have you heard about perks? some kind of a additional benefit, huge benefit for certain positions, like a CEO. And then also, like I mentioned before, how much money, how much salary the football coaches and basketball coaches making a year. So salary is a big money. Also, they receive a lot of benefit. Based on my personal experiences, Steve Spurrier, former football coach of University of Florida, he make about $2 million or more, 20억 plus more money per year. And he was a former NFL coach. Okay, so he salary-wise, just $2 million is not too great money. But if you consider some other benefit, $2 million plus 5 golf club memberships. Each membership costs $200,000. So 2 times 5. 5 golf club members cost $1 million. And then he can spend up to $50,000 for travel. And then he will get all the free education benefit for his families. He can spend up to $10,000 for gases. And then some additional. So, and then also he can host summer camp under his name, Steve Spurrier Football Summer Camp. And he doesn't have to show up. He just let them use his name. All the revenue after paying the expenses, all the revenue will be his. So think about the purchase. It's not small. It's a great amount of money that university or some other teams have to pay for it. Because why? Why university provide all the benefit and package? Because donations. Steve Spurrier is one of the big time celebrity in their location, Gainesville or Columbus, Columbia in South Carolina, etc. So he just retired a couple days ago. He coaches University of Florida football team for a while, and then he was a football coach of Washington Redskins in NFL 3 years, and then he came back as head coach of University of South Carolina football team. And then he just retired a couple days ago from the ESPN. Anyway, so he's a big time. So I'm a billionaire in the location. If I have a time to play, opportunity to play golf with Steve Spurrier, and then okay, this is a great time. I have money. You are one of the famous person in the town, and if you ask me to donate $5 million, I would love to do it. However, if I donate $5 million, then let's play golf together more often. Or I can I need some specific great seat for every single game. So there is some bartel, some business transaction under the table. But anyway, the reason that all the perks will be given to the big time person because they will bring more donation money to the institutions. So let's talk about Vanderbilt University versus DiNardo. Case one by one. So this is page 114. So have you read this case before? Who just read this case before? Okay, so read it. Okay, because I have to go one by one in the class. This is not like a book. This is the materials I'm going to cover one by one very specifically. Okay, so let's read it together. In 1990, Gary DiNardo signed a contract to coach football at Vanderbilt University. Vanderbilt University is located in Tennessee. And then this is the first law school who produced the female lawyer. And for 5 years, ending in 1995. The contract included a liquidated damages clause, providing that if DiNardo breached the contract, he would pay his net salary back to the university for the number of years still remaining on his contract. So liquidated damages means some other damages, financial compensation other than salary. So in addition, an addendum to the contract signed in 1994 allegedly extended the term of contract through 1997. So 2 more contract. So contract expired in 1995, but before the contract expired, just 1 year before it expired, there is a 2-year extension in this contract. However, at the end of the 1994 season, Dinaldo left Vanderbilt to become the head football coach at Louisiana State University, LSU, one of the top 5 football teams in the United States historically. Vanderbilt University sued for breach of contract. Like, we need money back because you breached of contract. Our contract doesn't expire until 1997, but you just breached of contract, leaving and becoming the coach of LSU. So seeking liquidated damages owed. It's not the salary. Salary-wise, they clearly indicate that you need to pay a certain amount of money. On the 3rd line, he would pay his net salary back to the university for the number of years still remaining on his contract. So he need to pay back to Vanderbilt University for 3 years of contract, net salary. That's clear. That's quite clear. However, there's some gray part. How can you calculate the liquidated damages per kit? Such as 5 golf club memberships, country club memberships, or travel agencies, educational benefit. It's kind of hard to measure, right? So Federal District Court held that the liquidated damages clause was enforceable and judgment was entered against Dinaldo for $281,000 or so. Which means the jury estimated that, okay, all the benefit, obviously all the benefit membership, I didn't pay it, but university paid. So it's kind of hard to calculate exact amount of money for each benefit. But anyway, jury calculated that this amount of benefit will be equivalent to dollar amount, which is a $281,000 or so. So unfortunately, Coach Dinaldo had to pay his 3 years of net salary to the university, and also he was forced to pay $281,000 to the university, Vanderbilt University, based on the outcome of the breach of contract.
So the liquidated damages is like not related to the salary, but the possible loss that Vanderbilt
Yeah.
might face.
Yeah, because this is a kind of benefit because it's a salary rise. I mean, salary plus all the benefit he enjoyed while he was a coach. So contract says he need to pay like his net salary still remaining in his contract. However, doesn't clearly mention that about the perkit. So this is one of the first case to talk about liquidated damages. So since this lawsuit, more and more university was quite clear to include this liquidated damages clause in their contract. So I have a 5-year contract with you, Choi Jin-soo, one of the great coach, and then I'm going to write down very specifically, if you breach of contract or vice versa, after 1 season, this is the amount of money you need to pay me back or I need to pay you back. So vice versa, including liquidated damages. So what about 2nd year, 3rd year, 4th year, and 5th year? And also, what if I was fired in the middle of season? The worst case scenario. And then you need to pay me this much. So very, very specifically designed at this point. It's not about just, okay, and I like you to be a coach my university. Okay, no more. This is a business. And then the coaching contract, I want you to approach from the worst case scenario. From the beginning, we were so excited having a new coach. However, in the middle of season, okay, kind of getting suspected. I don't like you. I don't know if I like you anymore. And then your performance is quite disappointing. So getting worse and worse. In the worst case, lawsuit. And then the evidence, it will be important to be included in your employment contract. And rescission and restitution. So rescission and restitution, if I translate in Korean, rescission, 취소, restitution, 판수, maybe, I think. Rescission, voiding the contract when fraud, 사기, duress, 기만, I think, right? I'm not familiar with Korean words, but I think that's kind of it is. Fraud, duress, mistake, or misrepresentation has taken. So there's just some illegal thing has taken, then probably the contract will be void, and then based on the voided contract, then you need to you have to pay the whatever the money back, and then you have to give the money back, the product back. So restitution, 환수, so returning the goods or properties that you received from the other party. So rescission and restitutions. So there's one case in the reading material, so I want you to read it for sure. And then this is a prime stress topper from the two cases. A quasi-contract remedy. So this is a sort of order contract, and quasi is a 준 in Korean. 준 계약 remedy. So if you wanna win this case, then 3 elements are required. The first one, the promise made should be reasonably expected to induce reliance. 신용, reliance. The promise made should be reasonably expected to induce reliance. Once again, think about who said it. Watching the position of the person who said to you, who promised you. If I said to you, I'm going to give you A grade in this class, okay, I'm the person who give the credit, right? Grade. So if I say it, then probably I can, it's clear to say, I induced reliance. And then number 2, there is a reliance upon the premise. So you listen to Dr. Park, what do you want? And then you just performed what I ask you based on the reliance, because I gotta do this only because Dr. Park said it's going to give me A grade. However, the last one, some detriment, some 피해, some detriment. You didn't get A grade. Occurs to the party that relied upon the promise. You just listen to Dr. Park says. And also, once again, you don't have to know about university policy in terms of giving a grade. Very similar situation that Lady Roach case, high school student. He doesn't have to know about NCAA rules and regulations. How does he know the athletic scholarship to be renewed yearly basis? And then if I didn't make a promise, such as if you receive B grade rather than A, then I can ask you, hey, I thought you knew the university policy, but how do you know? Right? Same thing. You didn't have to know the grading policy because that's not your job. That's my job. And there's no reason you didn't trust me. So induced reliance, there is reliance and some detriment. So once again, so this is a promissory estoppel. And going back to the case I just mentioned. Okay. So once again, case number one. Let's take a look at case number 2. So we understand induced reliance, that's the first element, induced reliance. Did Bobby Valentine induce reliance So Coach Valentine, head coach, he's a coach of the team that Cliff Floyd played. And also, he became the coach of All-Star team. So kind of a great relationship. So they knew each other, same team. Okay. We are a great team. So I'll be All-Star team head coaches and you are All-Star team player. So I said, okay, you're going to play. Is there an induced reliance? And then actually, there's a reliance. Based on the reliance, he purchased the ticket by paying $16,000. And then what happened? Some detriment? He wasn't, his name was on the list. So based on the notion of promissory estoppel, then we can reasonably say that Cliff Floyd would get the money back from Coach Valentine, right? What about number one, case number one? So Larry Rooch, same thing, former basketball player, but he was recruited and when he was junior status in high school, and then when his assistant coach, recruiting coach asked him or explained to him, he would get 4-year scholarship no matter what. So that's why there's a reliance, right? Induced reliance. And there is a reliance because, how do you know there's a reliance? Because he was offered from other university. However, he chose Sports University because of the promise, because of reliance. And there's some detriment. However, he didn't get 4-year scholarship. Does it make sense? Okay, so based on the notion of promissory estoppel, then he would get the money. Okay, this parity of bargaining power contract is written exclusively by one party. Other party is forced to accept terms. So when you think about the coach's contract, coaching contract, who designed the contract? Coaches, team. Team create the contract. Do you think it can be neutral? Pro teams, who create the regulation? Who creates the bylaws? In Korea, in baseball, let's talk about baseball. KBO, the team. Athlete, baseball players never be involved in that kind of process. So we have to understand there must be some disparity of bargaining power. And KBO started, they hired a lawyer for the first time in March this year, which means what can you expect? They have more authority in terms of bargaining this contract, the salary. KBO actually included one clause that each professional baseball player can get assistance from agent or financial advisor. They created the clauses. However, 그런 조항 만들었는데, however, they never made it effective. So they extended each initiation. So we don't know when it's going to be effective, but they have clauses. But we don't see it happen as of now. So unenforceable contract. So actual authority, apparent authority. I'm going to explain this in 2 weeks. Next week is a midterm exam, and then after midterm exam. So I'm going to explain about sport agent, and then this is more relevant to sport agent than the employment contract law session. So your job as a manager, as a future manager in sports organization, what you have to do, use the worst case scenario. What if? What if? Okay, I want you to keep in mind what if. What is the worst case scenario? And then put all contract in writing. If you will be working for the organization and or maybe governmental offices, your job is to rent public spaces to the stadiums and arena to the public. Okay, and then you have to purchase premium insurance. The insurance policy cover maybe 40 pages long or 50 pages long. You can ask the insurance premium policy seller, salesperson, can you explain more specifically? And ask the permission. I want to record what you say. Just do not throw this packet, this policy, this guideline to me. I'm not going to read. You are the specialist. I want you to explain very specifically, and I'm going to start recording what you explain. So do not take any financial or any legal responsibility unless you have to. So put all contract in writing or have some recording. It can be provided as one of the evidential document. And avoid making promises that go beyond what the written agreement conveys. So less is more. So this is it. Okay. Play by the rules, and then you don't have to provide more than necessary. Okay, so employment contract provisions. So I think I want to introduce very new and interesting concept to you. Employment contract. It will not be your job. Probably attorney will be writing the contract for your employment, such as hiring the coaches or head coaches. However, your job is to understand what that means. Do you understand? Yeah. And duties and responsibilities. Okay, absolutely, that's the kind of minimum. Very specific duties and responsibilities. Compensation, terms of employment, how many years? Okay, what about the automatic renew? Most of the coaching positions, they have no tenure position. If you don't hear anything, that's good news. No news is good news. Your contract will be renewed next year. But if you hear any noise, and then you will be fired. And clauses related to termination. So I'm going to cover that in a minute. Restricted covenant not to compete. This is a very, this will be on exam. I don't know this will be on this exam or final exam, but this will be on exam, either midterm or final. Restrictive covenant or covenant not to compete. I think I have to translate. 동종업계. I think I can interpret this way. 동종업계 경쟁 금지. I think that is what it is. So miscellaneous provisions. So I'm going to explain more in depth in a later slide. And by examples. Okay. If I want to explain restrict covenant or not covenant not to compete. So you can see covenant not to compete clause in usually service industry. You are intern of my ABC agency, and then you were intern for the last 2 years, and then you say, Dr. Park, I work for 2 years for the last 2 years for you, and then I believe I got all the know-hows from you, great experience, and then you have all of a sudden you can ask me, Dr. Park, I have a great and very close relationship with my current client. They like me,
So I'm going to open my own agency in the next year building. So do you think I would be happy? In Korea 그런 속담 있죠. 호랑이를 키웠다. Right? Especially in service industry, it's all about know-hows, how to handle the customers or client, how to negotiate with the teams and franchises, how to find the sponsor company or endorsement companies. And in the meantime, you get to know all the other key players in that industry. Because Dr. Park introduced me, Dr. Park took me all the time, wherever he goes, wherever he went, and then he introduced me to the certain groups of people. So I maintain great relationship with those people I have met for the last 2 years. So you are potentially my rival. So I want you to sign before you work as an intern in my agency. I want you to sign the contract saying there's no golden answer. However, probably you need to sign the form that I'm not going to open my own business or similar types of business within certain number of years, within certain market. Maybe it can be county, same county, or same district or state. So I don't want I don't want to block permanently. However, you know all my client, you know all my business, B2B key players in my B2B transactions. So you do not want to steal my know-hows, right? So this is one of it. In coaching position, head coach of Gonzaga University cannot be scouted by some other teams within the same conference. Not permanently. Okay. Yeah. Maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, depending on anything conflict of interest, rivalry or same conference, same region. If you see any conflict of interest with your current employer, then you're not going to do it. But please include that clause in your contract. If you do not include that clause in your contract, there will be a rivalry, the coach of the rivalry team. And then one of my students actually told me that yesterday or the day before, Lotte Giant fired 10 assistant baseball coaches at one time. And then I think Hanwha Eagles did the same thing, right? So they know their own teams. And then all of a sudden, they were recruited by each other teams, all of a sudden. But most of times, it can be happening. However, especially key player, head coach, not just assistant level. Also, there's some exceptions. If you are promoted to be head coach from assistant coach or the other team, then it's okay. We cannot force you to be promoted. That's a better position, right? But such as the same position, same title to other institution with conflict of interest, that will be prohibited. Okay, so let's take a look at Don Brown case. Had been under contract with Northeastern University as the football coach since 2000. In July 2003, he signed a new contract with Northeastern, extension of his contract, obviously, with a term through 2007 and 8. Article 7 of his employment contract provided that he not negotiate nor accept other employment during the term of his contract without first obtaining the written consent of the university president. A liquidated damages clause in the contract provided for payment of $25,000 if Brown left in Northeastern before the end of the contract. So obviously the specific amount of money indicated by liquidated damage was clearly written in this contract. In January 2004, Northeastern denied a request from the University of Massachusetts, UMass, to discuss employment with Brown. However, Brown told his athletic director that UMass had offered him the position of football coach. Same position, football coach to football coach. Different institution. I think rivalry, the same conference. He had declined. Brian submitted his resignation 3 days later in order to accept employment with UMass. Northeastern sued Brown, seeking a preliminary injunction to prevent Brown from coaching at UMass. Preliminary injunction. I think this is this talk about covenant not to compete. He won freedom. Okay. But what if he resigned and then stay out of the contract for 1 year, and he was offered a position from different school, even though it's the same conference, then there's no problem at all. But you are the current coach. Okay? If it happened, then definitely I'm going to scout one of the rivalry coaches without this covenant not to compete. Okay, and then another things should be included in the contract is reassignment clause. Reassignment clause. To protect university as interest, then you need to include reassignment clause. Why? What about Coach Shutlike? What's the contract? Probably he will be guaranteed to coach the Korean national team soccer team until World Cup in 2018, right? Russia. So he looks great so far in terms of the record. However, we don't know what's going to happen. Sports is about unpredictability, right? So far so good, but all of a sudden we have 3 more years to go. And what if he does really, really poor, really bad in next couple of years until 2017? Can we fire him? If it happened, so that means that's the breach of contract without cause. He doesn't do anything wrong except bad performance. Once again, we are dealing with human beings. We cannot force him to be best coach because only one winning team in sports league. So one championship team, the rest of the teams are not champion. Okay? So, we can't blame him. However, we are not satisfied with his result. Then probably we have to think about, hey, let's find other coach. So if you save some money, and then if you try to escape from breach of contract, then you have to consider this clause, reassignment clause. Some people call it constructive fire. Constructive fire. In Korean, constructive fire, which means 조직적 해고, I think. So in KT, you've been working for the KT for the last 20 years in desk. You are working for human resource department, and then I cannot fire you because you are okay employee. And then I have to think about some other way to let you resign by yourself. I'm going to reassign you some position that you are not familiar with. Or I'm going to send you very lonely place or way away from the where we live. Understand? So same thing, reassignment clause. So this is one of the famous case. Don Monson, University of Oregon is a great school academically and athletically. So he coached of the men's basketball team from 1983 to 1992. So 10-year contract. So after 1991 and 1992 season ended, athletic director wasn't happy. And then advised him that a basketball program was not going in the direction he wanted. And Monson was being reassigned to golf coach. What a shame. I was a head coach of men's basketball team for 10 years. And then this was in newspaper. Great coaches. A men's basketball legendary coach to become a golf coach. So, do you understand what that means behind? So, university asked him, university provide the opportunity, let him resign honorably, but he resisted. So, unfortunately, okay, we gotta do something different. So, shameful moment for Don Monson. So, he filed a claim. Okay, this is not the job I was offered. I can be golf coach. So Monson sued the university for breach of contract, which means he wanted some money. Breach of contract, university breach of contract, so you need to pay me some significant amount of money, whatever amount was indicated in the contract. So asserting that he had performed his obligations as a basketball coach, and the term of his employment contract did not expire until June 30, 1994. So based on my assumption, he's seeking about 3 years of a net salary. So he would be okay because as long as he can, receive the money he was supposed to receive, then okay, he got to drop this case. So Monson argued that the attempt to reassign him was a constructive fire or constructive discharge. This is the legal term. I mean, we can see, quite often. University responded that he had the right to reassign Monson under the clause in the contract that stated, the position as offered is subject to all applicable provisions of the state and federal law. So University of Oregon is a state university. So this is a part of the public business because operated by tax. So state and federal law provisions indicate that state administrative rules and regulations and policies, he can be assigned similar types of jobs. So courts ascertain that, golf coach and basketball coach, I think that's within the athletic department. Same 운동부. So nothing wrong. So that's the decision. But this university was fortunate to be state university. But without these provisions of the state and federal law, then, or if it happened in private university, he would have won. So, what do you think? So at the trial court, he won. 292. And then appeals court reversed. University was able to reassign him to other similar types of position That's the final decision. So he was so happy. Hey, university. Okay, I was assigned as a basketball coach, not a golf coach. But university appealed and they won. So the decision was reversed. Okay. So rationale was written and explained in that reading materials. So breach of contract, this summary, breach of contract, failure to perform, no punitive damages. Once again, this is not criminal law. So if you fire me or I was fired, then okay, let's talk about compensation. Usual remedies, monetary damages. So this is one of the key principles. Damages cannot be speculative. Must figure out loss of bargain at fair market value. So be specific. What's the fair market value of your property, your house? Okay. And then how much money you lost because of failure of your reputation. Misrepresentation by the ABC journalist in the newspaper. How much money you lost because of that. So gotta be careful. Okay? And then try to be specific. When you translate your reputation into dollar amount, very, very speculative, very subjective. Okay? So there's just some kind of a specific calculation by the specialist. And mitigation principle, non-breaching party is obligated to take reasonable effort to lessen the consequences of a coach. Mitigation principle. Breaches of contract can happen. It's not criminal law. Whatever reason, whatever situation you have, it may happen. So let's minimize the consequences of the breach. Okay? I gotta leave this team. I gotta resign. I'm sorry, I have to leave. But I have a 3 more contract left in my contract. Then how much money do I owe you? And try to minimize, so that let's make it happen. Kind of win-win situations. And specific performance only for unique goods or circumstances. Money damages will not suffice because you can't buy it elsewhere, because this is the only item, unique item. This will force the seller to turn the unique item over to the buyer. So once you said, okay, let's do it, you gotta turn this unique item over to the buyer. That's the only one way to satisfy the other party. And the human being, Shaquille O'Neal, not a one-of-a-kind player, human beings. We pay this much money because our expectation is ABC, average point, score, rebound, assist, etc. Up and down. Okay? So we cannot force you, or we cannot breach of contract. No. This is not the way we can see you play. Okay? We lost money. However, we're dealing with human being. Channel Park is one of the top worst players compared to their salary. Right? Unfortunately, I'm sorry, that's the fact. However, there's no way make him play better than actually he did. Land is always unique and can apply specific performance doctrine and take away land. So we cover this termination for cause. Okay. Any question? Any questions? Okay, so Chris, I'm going to explain the case in Korean because this is cover a lot of same things we cover in this class. So I think it will give you a hard time for you to understand in terms of the languages or terminologies. And if you look at the page number 223, okay, and then if you see 넷째 number 4, this is about what it is. This is about exculpatory agreement. 인쇄된 면책 약관의 효력. We talked about waivers and release, right? So this is about release. Doesn't explain, doesn't require the signature of the client or customers. This is one way. Back of the ticket, you will say, I'm going to take all the responsibility for any injuries within these premises. Okay, and then, so page number 224, and then line number 11. Can you see page number 224 and line number 11 or 12? 대위 책임설. This is about vicarious liability. Employee is liable, then you can be liable in terms of chain of command. Employee, supervisor, the team itself, etc. Have you heard about that word before? 대위 책임설? No? Okay, and then 225, the line number 2, negligence. So 1, 2, 3, 4, this is what we cover, right? Duty and duty of breach of duty, causation, and damages. I think English is much easier to understand, don't you think? So proximate cause is causation, same thing. And then the next line, 제한적 의무 이론, limited duty rules, baseball rule, we cover, right? And then 공작물 책임, premise liability. And then next line, trespasser, licensee, or invitee. And then if you look at the 주석 in the bottom, number 12, then you can see restatement of tort, chapter 13, trespasser, and licensee and invitee. It explains. And page number 226, line number 3, so business invitee. Kind of a confused in terms of their interpreted words and terms. 상업적 초대인, business invitee. Okay, and then we can. So I think you can be able to understand whole 논문, whole paper based on your knowledges and your knowledges and the skills that within this context. Okay, there's no specific assignment belongs to this article. However, I strongly recommend every one of you read this case, and that it will be very helpful for you to prepare for the exam next week. Okay? Okay, thank you so much, and see you next week. And then I will see you in this class.